Hello everybody, hope you're all doing well. My name is Steven and this is the Storytime channel. Today we have some pro-revenge stories and our first story of the day is by Coffee-and-Insomnia. Don't stick to our agreement, you shouldn't have been stepping out. Here we go, strap in for a long one kids. This is a story from long ago in a galaxy far, far away. And by that, I mean it happened 3 years ago at a pizza place I used to work. I was a delivery driver for 6 years at various pizza places, picking up and moving on to greener pastures whenever it suited me. Granted, that only happened a couple times because I am unfortunately a very loyal employee. To be honest, I should have done that before this whole thing ever even happened. The store I was at was part of a nationwide franchise and the waters had gotten choppy. All of the managers quit at once and they just couldn't seem to get one to stick around. It got so bad that the area manager had to come in as acting GM and brought a manager from another store with him. These two are the main characters of this story. Well, besides me, obviously. For the purpose of this story, we'll call them Jeff and Kate, and I'll just be me. Jeff was 45 and had been with the company for a long time before I started. Worked himself up from the position of driver all the way to being the one to oversee about 20 stores. He was actually married to another area manager. I got along okay with Jeff for the most part. On the other hand, Kate and I got on like a house on fire, both being ladies of a similar age. She often confided things in me that would soon bite her in the butt, figuratively. I considered myself a decent employee as far as pizza slingers go. Came to work on time, did all of the dishes, got along with everyone, and had the best delivery times. Because of this, I usually landed all the best shifts, including opening on Saturdays. If you've never worked a tip job, you know that shift is the most coveted out there. Working through both the lunch and dinner rush before going home is well worth having to get up earlier. That information is relevant to the story. Trust me. You see, there are always two drivers who do that shift. One comes in earlier and leaves earlier, and I was the one who got to come in just before we flipped on the open sign and went home once dinner rush began to die down. This is also relevant. The final vital bit of info you need for context is that my brother goes a bit wild at Christmas. His favorite thing to do is book an entire movie theater for everyone he knows to see a movie of his choice. This particular year was when The Last Jedi came out and he is a Star Wars fanatic. So that was what we were going to see. Unfortunately, it would be at 6 on a Saturday, at least 2 hours before I would get off. At this point, Jeff and Kate had been with us for 3 months without managing to find suitable replacements, and I made an arrangement with the other opening driver to switch shifts because his ended right when I would need to leave to make the movie. I then cleared it with Jeff and he agreed to let me go at 5:30. I was all set. Or so I thought. You see, that Saturday we started busy. Very busy. So busy that at 5:30 when I went to hand Jeff my slips, he had already dispatched me out on a double delivery. I took them, but I reminded him that I needed to leave when I got back. I just hoped the trailers were long enough that I didn't miss much of the beginning of the movie. I got back from my double and by that point it was already 6 and the theater was 20 minutes away. I had to leave. Once again, I went to hand my slips to Jeff, but he got in my face. "You leave when I say you can leave," he told me. "You're not going to let me?" I asked, incredulous that he was reneging on our deal. "I came early. I did my time, dang it." He looked so very smug. "No." Well, I made a decision right then and there. There are so many pizza jobs out there that they needed me more than I needed them. I took my slip book, you know, the kind that you see in restaurants. I found they're great for delivery because not only can you store all of your slips in them, but they're hard enough for customers to bear down on to sign. Anyway, I slapped that in his hand and said, "Fine then." I quit. It was his turn to look incredulous. After making sure I meant it, he checked me out and I left the store fuming. I missed the entire opening of my movie. But the story doesn't end there. Oh no. You remember how I said Kate would confide in me? She loved to tell me all about how often she and Jeff would meet at a hotel after work. She even horrified me by telling me Jeff would turn off the cameras so they could have sex in the back office when the store was empty in a chair I had sat in multiple times. Kate was even so obliging to give insignificant details like the date and time this happened. So I put in an anonymous call to the franchise's HR and told them what to look for when it came to checking the tapes. I told them everything Kate had told me, but I still wasn't content with leaving it there. So I went to my local pizza place that just happened to be in Jeff's wife's area. Remember when I said she was also an area manager? And I got to gossiping with the workers there while they made my pizza. I was well aware it would make it back to her. Food employees can't keep such juicy gossip to themselves. Jeff got demoted to store manager, then transferred to the same store in his wife's area I went to so she could keep an eye on him. I guess it didn't work out because last I heard, Jeff's wife divorced him and he no longer worked for that franchise. And none of that would have happened if he had just let me leave on time. So let me ask you guys, if you're in a situation where you know Jeff is married and his wife is the area manager or another area manager, and Kate is telling you how they blatantly cheat on Jeff's wife, would you personally want to try and put it out there somewhere where Jeff's wife could hear about it and do something about it and just know what's going on? Do you think that's the right thing to do? Let me know in the comments down below. Our next story is by PyroPaladin. Funeral insurance company gets a visit from a client. Let me preface the story by saying that I saw this post on here recently about a woman who got revenge on a bank by maxing out a credit card in her deceased husband's name and not paying for it. This reminded me of an incident that occurred around this time last year that, while not on the same monetary scale, delivered shock value far greater than money and became a nationwide story. All names have been changed. So this takes place in South Africa, and there is an insurance and investment company that we will call Green Grubber that is notorious for not paying out on funeral policies. One such victim, let's call her Precious, was being given the runaround by Green Grubber. Her uncle Obed had been badly beaten at a shebeen, a legal bar, and in his injured state, managed to walk to the police station to report the incident. At the police station, he had a seizure and they thought he was a mental patient and did nothing. Later on in the day, a farmer had pity on Obed and took him to the local government hospital. Obed waited outside in the pouring rain as no one was available to attend to his wounds. Finally, he was admitted into the casualty ward whereby he succumbed to his injuries. Obed had a funeral policy with Green Grubber for $30,000, around $1,852 USD, paid for by his niece, Precious, who was unemployed and relied on government grants. The monthly premiums of $232, around $14 USD, were up to date and had never been in arrears. However, when it came time for her to claim on the policy, she was given no end of uphill. She had been to their offices numerous times only to be turned away with the excuse that it was still under assessment, and living on a rural farmstead, it's neither cheap nor easy to travel to the city, 83 kilometers, around 52 miles, having to take a minimum of 4 minibus taxis for a round trip. In addition, the morgue where the body was being kept wanted the body removed quickly and were charging storage per day, and these costs were adding up. Being unable to afford a lawyer and not being savvy on how to navigate the legal system on her own, she took matters into her own hands and did something that has worked since time immemorial: public shaming. Precious removed her uncle's corpse from the morgue, who released it, no questions asked, glad to be finally rid of the body. Precious then hired a vehicle and had the body transported to the Green Grubber offices, hauled the body out of the vehicle, and left in the center of the building for all to see. Precious then started talking loudly, explaining her experience with Green Grubber to everyone within earshot. The Green Grubber staff were naturally spooked, and after 30 minutes, the assessment that had been pending suddenly concluded and the claim was approved. Precious left the body at the Green Grubber offices and went to the bank to ensure the funds had been deposited before returning and collecting the body. In addition, Green Grubber was made to pay for Zulu traditional rituals required to remove the deceased spirit from the premises and apologize for its extreme treatment before being laid to rest. Respect towards elders and ancestors are a cornerstone in Zulu culture, and rituals usually require slaughter of cattle and other animals, which can end up very expensive. It's really sad that it had to come to all this extreme action just to get what they deserved because they had been paying months for it. And not only that, but it's sad to see how irresponsible and uncaring the people were for the uncle to begin with and how they ended up dying because of it. In the end, I'm glad the family got what they deserved, but it's unfortunate all through and through the entire story until the very end. Our next story is by Garmdian. Make me look bad on the job? Well, we'll see about that. I worked at a clothing store in a mall for a year and a half. It was not fun, but I was thinking back to my time there recently and I forgot this golden gem of pro-revenge. So a new girl had just been hired, as many new people did in that job, and right away you could tell she thought she was hot crap. We're talking acting like a manager, talking how many hours she had, and worst of all, she wouldn't shut up about all the dudes she was banging and how the money she got from them was the most important part. To put it lightly, she was a cold-hearted witch who made everyone feel bad about their insignificant lives, as she put it. Here's where things go down. In our store, all the racks were milled steel bars and hooks, so really hard to break and really expensive. They could, however, be bent out of shape if enough heavy coats stay on them for long periods of time. Miss Hot Crap here thought it would be a good idea to impress the management by putting all the coats on the same rack using the milled steel bars instead of a circular rack that wouldn't warp. I protested, of course, as I'd been there longer, but she said, "I get paid more than you, so do what I say." She got hired as a key holder of our gate, so she made $1 more than I did per hour. I go along with it, put the heavy winter coats up on the milled steel, and go about my life. Well, 2 weeks later, the milled steel is of course warped, and when management saw this, they flipped. Cheapo store, any cost was bad to them. Anyways, she blames it on me, and I get written up for it. Now, I refused to sign, so they gave me less hours, which also cut my pay. Because she lied, I was now making 50% less than before and had a formal written complaint against me. To say I was ticked off wouldn't even start. So I devised a plan to go get back at her. You see, the drywall on the center pillars had sustained water damage from an early melt earlier that year, making them extremely soft. However, they provide some of the largest coverage of shelf space in the entire store, meaning basically a good 20% of shelf space couldn't be used. Now the kicker is Miss Hot Crap didn't know about this, as she came in a week after it had happened, and to the naked eye, you wouldn't think the pillar couldn't be used as there was banners on it to try and hide the yellowing. I may have suggested what a waste not being able to have product on the pillars was, and how if someone could come up with a nice display, it would bring in a lot of customers due to how people could see it from the mall main floor. We were just off the food court. Her eyes lit up. Now here's the thing. I was taking a small break to a nice snowy lake cabin the next day, and the people she had working with her were the managers or the temps who were not allowed to handle marketing and logistics, i.e. putting shelves/rack up on the wall due to their cost and the incident that got me wrote up. Now I knew she wouldn't want the managers to see it because she wanted all the glory from it. She wanted to show to our 3 stores in the mall that her store was the best while the managers weren't around. So she, being with a temp and them not being able to put up shelving, put the heavy winter clothing on milled steel racks attached to the soft drywall pillars. Within a week, the drywall on the pillars collapsed and ruined $500 worth of product. Now she tried to shift blame on me, but I was away for the whole week, so it could not have been me because obviously that can't happen if I'm in the forest hundreds of miles from civilization. So no dice there. And she promptly got charged with the repair, demoted to sales associate, and written up for what they finally realized was not just this, but the one they wanted me to sign. The repair was $2,500 plus the $500 stock that got destroyed when 40 pounds of drywall came crushing down on it. But I wasn't done yet. You see, our manager in our store specifically was pretty chill, and she's a personal friend to me. She had a group chat so we could talk off hours and keep up to date. Now, as I mentioned before, she wouldn't shut up about all the men she was playing and how the only thing that mattered was the money, and boy oh boy did she use the group chat to say a lot of this. Sometimes one of these dudes would come around and take her for lunch. Let's just say when she was in the back for a little while finishing something up, that I let them see the text channel if they promised not to let her know I told them. So often they'd go on their lunch date and after 1 or 2 days, she'd be down a man. Finally, this boiled over when one of them took her phone, saw how many guys she had been banging for money, and messaged all of them about how much of a lying cheat she was. After 2 months, her fountain of man money dried up and now demoted to a sales associate, she didn't have the money to spend on all her lavish nights out or designer clothing. She eventually moved up to another store for more hours and stole money from the till, causing her to get fired. A fitting end to a backstabbing ice queen, I think. I eventually left that job after half a year later to pursue my current job. Yeah, so I think OP was pretty good on describing what kind of person this was. Just kind of a trashy train wrecker type person from top to bottom. And our final story of the day is by PhylaxZA. Dog does petty revenge. So having a busy schedule trying to get everything done while keeping the entire family happy has resulted in me and my wife not getting to the sexy part of our marriage. We both agreed that Sunday mornings early will be our special time when our daughter is still asleep and none of us had to get ready for work or whatever. We can just relax and have a good time with each other. Thing is, we have 2 dogs who also sleep on the bed / in the room, and on Sundays they need to get out so that we can do our thing. Nothing is more creepy than your dogs watching you do the crazy monkey dance. They really don't want to go out of the room, and when I make them, they leave tail between the legs. Me and wifey had a good few Sundays, but lately we've been interrupted by my daughter waking up and coming to our room. Door is closed and we can hear her coming from her room, so there is just enough time to cover up. She always sleeps late, but the past 3 Sundays, she's been in our room just past 6 o'clock, right in the heat of our sexy time. I could not understand what was happening until this past Sunday when I finally asked her why she always sleeps so late, but on Sundays she is awake early in the morning. She had this angry look on her face and said that one of our dogs always comes and wakes her up on Sunday mornings by jumping on the bed, licking her in her face and lying all over her, wagging his tail like crazy. He was trying to wake her up. So this silly doggy of ours goes to her room as soon as we put him out to go wake her. He knows that as soon as she is awake, he can get back in the room. That's a sly dog. Dogs definitely pick up on habits, so if they go and wake the daughter up one time, that leads to the daughter going to the room, and they can get back in. They can very quickly formulate that, oh, if I wake them up, I'm back in the room where I want to be. And unfortunately for OP and their wife, no more crazy monkey dancing. But with that being said, that's all the time we have for today. So if you enjoyed the stories today, let me know which one was your personal favorite and why in the comments down below. And if you haven't yet, please like this video and subscribe and turn notifications on because anything you do helps this channel grow so much more. So no matter what you do, whether it was just watching the video, liking, subscribing, thank you all so very much for supporting me right here on the Storytime channel. I hope you all have a wonderful day and I'll see you all next time right here.